For more on this story, let's bring on our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Monty.
Well, so, Doug, the U.S. supplies aid to Israel. It has for decades. What is the history of this aid and how is it used?
The history is pretty straightforward. Over the past several decades, Israel has been by far the single largest recipient of U.S. foreign aid to any country in the world, to the tune of, over the past few decades, $130 billion. Now, every 10 years or so, there's a new sort of memorandum that lays out the terms of this aid on a yearly basis. So in the current cycle, which runs from the fiscal year 2019 in the U.S. through 2028, so there's still 5 years left on it, there's a total of 380, I'm not getting this figure wrong, $380 billion over that decade-long period, of which we're in the middle of it right now. So you do the math, right? That's $3.8 billion a year. Now, you'll often hear people say, well, the actual foreign military assistance direct to the military is $3.3 billion a year. An additional $500 million a year, remember, each year over 10 years, goes to missile defense funding. So they're two separate sort of categories lumped together, which gives you that figure of $3.8 billion. Now, what is that money directly used for? That military assistance, it's obviously evolved over the years, but it's generally gone up, the amount going to Israel. It's used for everything from allowing Israel to update its whole fleet of fighter aircraft, including the acquisition of the newest jets, such as the F-35s, also to upgrade its missile defenses, notably the Iron Dome system, and then, according to the White House, to acquire other defense capabilities needed to, in the White House's words, in the U.S. Government's words, to meet its, quote, threat environment. And so those are, to some people, vague terms. What does that actually mean? And that's coming to a head right now. But the idea behind this aid, giving Israel more aid than any other country, it is a strategic policy decision that longstanding the United States to enable Israel to continue to enjoy what it calls a qualitative military edge. It's actually given an acronym in the U.S., QME, Qualitative Military Edge in the region. So it's the largest recipient of aid. I will just note that last year, in 2022, well, in the past couple of years, in 2023, Ukraine actually did receive more total aid from Israel. But the trend going back years and decades has been Israel has always been just an article of faith in U.S. government that Israel gets the most foreign aid, military aid. And I will just note this, almost all of it, 99+% goes to actual military aid. A tiny percentage goes to Israel's economy.
You're talking about some really huge numbers there. And given the amount of this aid, some progressive Democrats want to put conditions on it. What could that look like? Yeah. And in the end, what effect could that have?
Well, okay, let me start with the epilogue here, just so that the spoiler alert. The aid that the U.S. gives that I was just talking about to Israel does not look like it's about to change anytime in the future. They're not about to pull. Biden administration, the U.S. government are not about to pull the plug on that aid, barring some dramatic turnaround in events on Capitol Hill among lawmakers in Congress. That said, yes, there is a conversation right now that is coming to the fore, which has broken that taboo that you can't talk about aid to Israel. Lawmakers in Congress are actually having the discussion. And the very fact they're having that discussion is something that would have been sort of almost unthinkable in years past. Doesn't mean they're about to change their minds, Monty. But led by a small minority of Democrats, some are basically saying, including, well, independent Bernie Sanders, you know his name, that aid should be used as leverage. It should be made conditional. You should not just keep writing blank checks to Israel. That's the argument made by more progressive Democrats, more progressive politicians on Capitol Hill. Obviously, most Republicans and a vast majority of Democrats, perhaps by a 3-to-1 ratio, are still in favor of keeping that aid going. A lot of them argue that existing laws should technically condition that aid to Israel by obliging Israel to make sure its actions conform to international humanitarian laws. A lot of people would argue, well, that's not happening in this current conflict. The current law isn't working. You need further conditioning. This is an argument that is not going to be solved overnight. It's a nuanced and contentious argument, but I will say it's not going to change anytime soon. But what's new here is they're having that discussion about conditioning aid.
Okay.